Hey guys, so we saw in the first video how Turbo Render was able to reduce the render time by a whopping 960 times, whilst providing vastly better texture detail than the standard denoisers couldn't match after rendering for 120 times longer. The problem was, you don't mind waiting the additional 7 to 20 seconds Turbo Render needs for additional processing if you're saving several hours of render time. But if your render is only 10 to 20 seconds in the first place, then you need that processing time to be as fast as possible. So for this reason, I've introduced draft stroke rapid mode, which is suitable for final renders in scenes that render to a denoisable state in under a minute, and draft renders for scenes that take 1 minute upwards. And with the enhanced texture option enabled, it will produce vastly superior results to the standard denoisers whilst only taking a few seconds longer. So let's take a look. We'll head over to the compositor. The first thing I'm going to do is a standard render that doesn't use Turbo Render, just so we can get a comparison with the quality compared to the Open Image Denoiser that's available in Blender's Render Options panel. Okay, so let's go to the image editor, and we've got one set up for Odin. And make sure this is turned off, yep. And we'll do a render. So render, Turbo Tools Render. We always use a Turbo Tools Render because this will enable us to have the full caching system that comes with Turbo Tools as well. Okay, so that finished in 54 seconds, and that's with the standard Odin from the render settings. And now if we enable Turbo Render, make sure in draft mode, we've got enhanced textures turned on. We're going to use the user sample preset, so we've got the same presets. This scene is so well optimized already. If we reduce the sample number at all, we're going to start losing detail in a few areas of reflection, like on the glass and also in this, well, I'm not sure what it is, but in this thing there. So we can't speed up the render in this instance, but we can get better quality. So we'll set up a new slot in the image editor for Turbo Render. So this is going to be Turbo Draft Stroke Rapid. I'll do another render. And there we go. So let's compare. Turbo Render finished in 58:09 and Odin finished in 54. So approximately 4 seconds longer, and we'll take a look now why that is. So firstly, we'll look at some areas with high texture detail. So let's look at this roof over here, for example. We can see that the Odin denoiser has actually quite badly blurred out all that detail. If we then look at Turbo Render, we've got all that detail back. So all that texture detail that was lost, Turbo Render is able to retain incredibly well. Another area, maybe this wood area here, if you look at Odin, we can't see the scratches very well at all, whereas Turbo Render, there's no loss in texture detail. Even in this sort of heavy depth of field area in the background there, if you look at Odin, it's incredibly smooth, whereas Turbo Render, we've retained all that detail, even in the heavy depth of field area. And the robot, this is Odin. The texture is completely gone with Odin there. And Turbo, you can see we can still get all that fine detail. And again on the floor here, this is Turbo. And then Odin has completely lost it. So Odin, Turbo, and that's Odin. And it just goes on throughout the scene. So even on this toolbox, for example, look at Odin and now Turbo. You see there's a huge difference. We can see all the little scratches on there, which were completely lost with Odin. They're completely gone. And Turbo's managed to retain those. And it's not just the texture detail. It will actually do a better job with geometry as well, if you've got the enhanced texture option turned on. So if we look at Odin on this gamepad, you can see it's very blurry, and we're actually losing the sort of definition on the geometry itself. And on this screw over here, or this nut, whatever it's called, if we look at Turbo, you can see we've actually got all that detail retained. We can see all the corners, and the gamepad, the button on the gamepad itself is a lot more defined. This is Odin. You can see we've lost not only the texture, but it's just made the geometry itself quite soft as well, compared to Turbo there. And on this bolt over here, or this nut, Odin, it's actually lost the top of the geometry completely, whereas Turbo, we've got all that there. And you might notice as well, we've actually got better shadow detail if we look underneath this this nut and this wire, Odin has actually completely lost it. The shadow's gone underneath there, and Turbo has managed to retain that much better. And it just goes on throughout the entire scene. So I think you get the idea. And that's just what I wanted to show you, that now we're able to use turbo render on scenes that render very quickly with virtually no loss in time. So it took an additional 4 seconds, but I think you can see the difference in quality is absolutely massive. So it's definitely worth the additional 4 seconds. And if we turn the enhanced textures off, it will actually be the identical speed to OpenImage Denoiser. So that will enable you to take advantage of the other options you've got in here if you don't want to enhance the textures but still get the same speed as Odin. So that's it. And if you'd like to find out more, then you can visit 3d-illusions.co.uk. The link should be popping up in the top right hand corner, and it's also in the description down below. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. And if you'd like to learn about geometry nodes, then you're in luck, because if you visit 3d-illusions.co.uk, there's a 147-minute tutorial together with scene file that you can see playing here, which incidentally is playing in real time in the Eevee viewport. This is not Cycles, which would teach you everything you need to know about the underlying fundamentals of geometry nodes, allowing you to build anything you want by creating your own Blender modifiers. It's great fun, it's really easy to follow, and I'm sure it'll be incredibly useful. So thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.